coffee break after this, and I'm sure you're overloaded with information today. So I'm going to make this quick and fast and useful for you, and I hope I make sure you go to your coffee break after that. Is that a deal? Yes? Okay, wonderful. It's an interesting subject. I think we had fascinating discussions on artificial intelligence, on cost engineering, on branded residences, all very important for the business. But what I'm going to talk to you about today is the fundamental core of your business, and that's your people. How are you going to keep them? How are you going to retain them? How are you going to attract talent, especially here in this region? And as Gemma said, I'm going to present some of the data that we gleaned through our annual Arab Youth Survey, and I'm going to give some details of that survey before I jump into a few of the findings, which I think will be interesting and I believe important for you as you grow your brands and your companies and you try and attract and retain some of that important talent, especially local talent in the hospitality industry. We have a specialist practice in the agency that focuses on the hospitality sector. We work with clients such as the Red Sea Global. We work for Jumeirah Group here, the Abu Dhabi Culture and Tourism, as well as the Ras Al Khaimah Tourism Development Authority, and a couple of airlines, Saudi Catering Company, a number of these brands. So we understand what your industry is about and how communication plays a critical role. I see my former colleague there, Chandan. Good to see you. So that's what I'm going to talk about. A little bit about the research. The region is known for conflicts about oil and gas, but not many people know that this region is blessed with a very youthful demographic. 60% of its population below the age of 30. Saudi, in fact, is 70% below the age of 30. Extremely youthful. The youngest region in the world. And that's about 200 million people. And we believe that if you want to know the region, you need to know the hearts and minds of these young people. Literally crystal gazing when you look at what these young people are talking about. And so we started this survey way back in 2008, and we've done this annually, and this is our 15th survey. So we have a fund of information we call a data treasure, so we see what's changing on the ground. We have tracking data that goes across. And of course, we do this because we want to give this data to private sector firms like you in hospitality, to governments, to multilateral institutions, so they can use this data to inform their policy making for business strategy decisions, and of course, to look at what the trends are in the market. And that's how this survey has become the most quoted study in the world today. Very quickly on our methodology, we use six-factor consulting. We commission them, a professional research firm. We do 3,600 face-to-face interviews. Now, these are not online interviews. These are face-to-face. Why do we do face-to-face? Because we believe, especially here in the region, you get much more accurate, dependable, and credible data when you do those face-to-face interviews. They are much more costly to do, but they are much more reliable. And we've been doing this for 15 years. So we go do this field study, talking to these large amount of young male and female Arabs in roughly about 53 cities in 18 countries. This year we added South Sudan to the mix. So, roughly looking at the Gulf region, the Levantine region, and the North African region. So over the last 15 years, we have actually about 45,000 face-to-face interviews in this young age group of 18 to 24. This year, all of the sample are Gen Zs, all those born after 1997. So an extremely important cohort of people that we are talking to. So what you see in these findings, and you can get all these findings, all you have to do is log on to arabyouthsurvey.com, and you will find the findings across all these 15 years, from 2008 to 15, and it's available free to all the people who want to use it. And we fund this research entirely ourselves, We are part of WPP, which is Burson Wolf, and we fund it because we have been in this region. It's our our thought leadership initiative. I'm not going to spend a lot of time because the survey talks of geopolitics. In my global citizenship, it talks of my politics, which means these young people try and rate their governments on livelihood. What do people think about their education, about jobs, about careers? It talks about my identity. What forms Arab identity? Is it religion? Is it language? Is it nationality? You'll find all of those very interesting findings there. And then my aspirations. What am I looking for? What do I want to do? What kind of career do young people want to become? Do they want to be engineers, doctors, or social media influencers, or hospitality experts, or cooks, for instance? And then finally, my lifestyle. So you'll find all of this on our website. What I'm going to focus now on, which is the topic of the day, is how do you want youth to be attracted to the hospitality industry, and how you're going to keep that. But before I did that, I wanted to make sure that you understand the context of the survey. So let's move forward on our first finding. So this, a first finding for you today, the question we asked is, now thinking about the next 10 years, what are you personally most looking forward to? Young people, 18 to 24, what do they want to do? They want to establish a professional career. They want to finish their education. They want to pursue something they are passionate about. So fairly interesting. And what does this mean to you in the hospitality industry? These are these young people in campuses where they are undecided where do they want to go. They want to establish a good career, And if you're in the hospitality industry and your growth is going to be stupendous in the future, you need to catch them young, in the sense that you need to be able to drive curricula to be much more vocational in nature in these, in the colleges and schools, where you can prime them for what the hospitality industry is all about. How can you attract them to look at jobs of the future? You talked of AI before. Others will talk about sustainability. These are very interesting subjects that young people want to be involved in. And if you go to universities and campuses and you catch them young, attract them to these interesting ones and tell them this is available in hospitality, you're going to engage them. You're going to get the best people. It's often said, where do young people go? They go to Goldman Sachs. But things have changed today. Young people, Gen Zs, look at much more important key decisions. I want to work in a company that aligns with my values. That's what a lot of young people are saying, even in our study. How can you make sure your brand stands for those values, and how can you attract them? And I think the diversity of the career options that your industry has is unmatched, and you need to be able to sell them in campuses, and that's what this finding is all about. Moving forward to the next one, we asked these young people, where do you want to work? What are your future career choices? Where do you want to work? Private sector? Government? You want to work for myself or my family? Or you want to work for a non-profit organization? And here's the finding. Look at it, how interesting. We've given you tracking data from 19 to 23. And when you look at private sector, from 22 to 23, it has risen up from 20 to 33%. A massive increase, and that kind of percentage increase we've never seen in the 15 years that we have tracked this particular data. Simultaneously, you can see the drop in government from nearly 39% last year to 30% this year. So you can see the scales are changing. If we asked this question 10 years ago, there would be nearly 60 to 70% saying we want to work in the government. You see how things are changing on the ground. And I think this is a big positive signal for the hospitality sector that people are willing to work for private companies. Of course, nearly 25% also wanted to work for themselves or their family, which is a big entrepreneurial zeal, which we'll talk about later as well. nearly half actually said that they wanted to start their own business. We asked, do you intend to start your own business in the next 5 years? And 42%, nearly half said yes, but very high in the GCC, 53%, 37% in North Africa, much lower, and Levant, 39%. So what does this mean to you? It means that there are a lot of young people who want to start their own business. Clearly a good sign for the region. But what it means to you is, how do you encourage these young people to start ancillary businesses that are linked to your sector, hospitality and tourism? I believe there's a startup den, Gemma, happening right now as they speak, and people are actually looking at some fresh ideas from young people. I'm sure that's a sign of what you could get. You could start many of these young businesses linked to your sector, and there are much more young people trying to get into your industry, and you should encourage them. We asked the question, in which industry would you like to set your business up in? To these young people who want to start business in the next 5 years, the question was, which sector do you want to open the business? Some usual big-ticket items like technology, e-commerce, creative industries, manufacturing, real estate, hospitality and tourism comes 9 at 7%. Yet, it's in the top 10. And this is a multiple choice. So it is there in the top 10, but it's not among the top choices. So I think that is something you should look at, and how can we make it even more attractive. This is an interesting question we asked this year. It's about an aspirational question. We asked them, in the future, if you ever become famous, in which of these fields would you want to achieve fame? And look at the number one choice. They want to be a social media influencer. Second choice, and that's where it's interesting for you. Culinary arts, cooking, example, they want to be a chef, a food critic, or a food blogger. See the interest in your sector. This is a big, what we call green shoot finding for your sector. The fact that it's the second choice, which is trumping, humanitarian work, trumping technology, trumping fashion, trumping social work, education, sports, business, falls number 10. So if culinary arts is an attraction, it is an indication of the growing interest, among young people to look for something that will make them satisfied, something that will make them feel that they have achieved something. It's a great finding, actually. And this is my last finding, which I wanted to show you, which is the subject of sustainability and climate change, which is now a big, hot subject, especially with COP28 happening in Dubai in November, December. And we asked the question, would you ever support the boycott of a brand which is seen to be damaging the environment? And look at this, 58%, of which 65% in GCC alone said they will boycott a brand. Now look at the high level of awareness, the high propensity to take action against brands that are not seen to be sustainable, not doing the right thing in terms of the right kind of actions. And the fact that they could boycott a brand is a sign of the times. It is a totem pole finding that you should take seriously. And I think these young people, and I think there are trends in your industry which are moving in that direction, in the sense of sustainable tourism, in terms of not only your employees, but your visitors, your customers, choosing a destination based on its sustainability index in terms of, are you ESG compliant or not? And this is going to be, in the next couple of years, not in the future, in the next couple of years, probably one of the most standout points of choice of a destination. And this is an indication of why you should look at sustainability seriously. I think that's what I have for you.
Sunil, congratulations on a wonderful survey. As a journalist, I love surveys like that.
Yes.
Some really good touch points there for the industry about, there's obviously a disconnect between the image the hospitality industry is putting out compared to what Arab youth actually want to do as a career. What do you suggest to bridge that gap? Because, like you say, the hospitality sector has what they want, for the Arab youth, but they don't understand that that's available in that industry. So how can the two come together, the industry and Arab youth, so more people want to work in the sector?
You know, I think this is an important question for all of you to consider. I think you've got to take the need to attract nationals. By the way, our survey only talks to nationals in each country, whether it's UAE or Saudi Arabia. So what you're seeing is what the nationals are saying, Saudis, nationals, and UAE nationals. And it is critical for your industry to be able to focus on nationals and how you want to do that. And here's a special cohort of people who have nationalistic interests in mind, who want to do something for their country. And so actually being able to do some of this, attracting them on a values platform, on a reason why. Saudis, for instance, hospitality is one of the most critical components of their future Vision 2030 plan. If you get linked to the 2030 plan, then you will attract those young Saudis to come and work. And I want to give you a recent example of one of our clients, which is the Red Sea Global, that they did a survey sometime in 2020 where they surveyed Saudi nationals across the nation, across the kingdom, and they said, are you interested in the hospitality industry? And what will make us interesting for you to join us? Because Red Sea Global has nearly 40 hotel establishments coming in that. And what was interesting is that the survey said, 91% of the survey said, we want to be part of the hospitality sector because this is a sector that is going to give the maximum growth for the kingdom. So it was a very positive sign that there was interest. So to convert the findings of the survey into action, they did a campaign across just a little after after 2020, after the COVID thing, to attract people. They got 87,000 applications in a couple of weeks to join the Red Sea Global, of which they hired 800 people in the hotel establishments that are opening up now, all Saudi nationals. So you can see the interest. So if organizations take a strong position on this, position themselves among young people, one of the things I said is catch them young on campuses so you can make your sector attractive, you can get results.
Thank you, Sunil. Just wondered, did you define gender? Did you compare results between female respondents and male respondents? The only reason I ask that is because tomorrow we have a session about the lack of female chefs in high-end kitchens. And with the trend that you're talking about, a real interest in the culinary arts, it would be interesting to see how many of those were women. I wondered if that was part of the survey.
Yeah, the sample is 50% male, 50% female.
Right.
So 50% of that voice is women.
Yep.
I don't have the exact data, but you asked me a very interesting question.
Yes, yeah.
I'll probably have to look back into the data, come back to you. How many of the women chose to be a chef? Is that the question?
How many of the women respondents were interested in the culinary arts? And if you tell me, I can use that and plug your survey tomorrow.
Okay. I can send it to you. But I can guarantee you that since 50% of the sample is women across these 18 countries, you can clearly say that 50% plus
they're interested
in that.
Yeah.
So, but we'll give you the exact data.
Fabulous.
I'm sorry I couldn't answer that specific question. Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Oh, we have one there. So we have time
Yes,
for
sir.
one more question, I think.
Thank you. My question might not be directly GCC oriented, but I want to go back to COVID years because COVID was a very interesting period where you had a global controlled experiment and then had to come back from that. And if you look at hospitality, hotels and restaurants, a significant chunk of people who left the industry didn't come back, never look back, especially in the time of gig economy and all that stuff.
True.
So if you apply that, okay, all these statistics and the enthusiasm is very nice, and especially Saudi, because I'm also coming from Saudi and I'm obviously hospitality. We need these resources, but is it realistic considering the challenges, specific challenges of the hospitality, and considering there are so many other options out there, again, in the era of gig economy, do you think it's realistic that all these pipeline projects will be sufficiently resourced by the local talent? This is important. Import, no problem, but local talent, would the demand, or let me put it this way, would the supply of talent meet the demand?
And the answer is a very specific no, having operated in these markets as well. And many of the countries have a Saudization quota, for instance. The fact that you won't be able to attract enough. But the onus of being able to attract and bring these young nationals into your sector is with you. Nobody else is going to do that. And that's why you need to catch them young. You've got to get them excited about it. You need to keep Saudis on a special fast-track process. You can't treat them like anyone else. They are nationals and they need to be dealt with differently. If you need to keep your quotas, I'm speaking practically, sir, that is what you need to do. It's a tough challenge. You don't have enough talent to be able to do that. Yes, Saudi has a 30 million population. It's a big domestic market. The majority are Saudis. But, I think, there are a lot of people out there who are attracted by well-paying, GRIs or government-related institutions that pay big salaries. How do you attract people into hospitality where your business models maybe you won't be able to pay that kind of attractive salary? How can you do that? That's where you need to catch them young, keep them on a fast track, and then keep them motivated and enthused. Because even when I see Saudi, they're kind of, the term that they have, is like 1-2 years, and then they jump to another job. So, not just attracting talent, but retaining them, it's going to be a continuous challenge. And it is one of the biggest problems that hospitality industry faces across. Even in New York, after COVID, as you mentioned, a lot of people left restaurants and hotels, never came back. Because, of course, the government paid them a lot of money in terms of, and so, they said, oh, why do we need to come back to work? So, but things are changing, though. I think, yours is a very attractive industry, You need a special kind of person to be able to work in your industry, And I think it's an attractive industry. But it needs to be positioned. You need to campaign this. I mean, I'm talking of the Red Sea Global example. It's a real example of how you make it attractive. One of our other clients in the pharma sector couldn't find it attractive. That's because people didn't know what is the role pharma played in terms of general health. And that kind of campaign touched on people's hearts, national issues. Saudis, if you touch national issues, saying you're being part of the building of the nation, suddenly your pitch changes. It's not about come work for my company. Come work for a sector that is critical for GDP growth, for creation of jobs, for Vision 2030. So the pitch needs to change.
Thanks, Sunil. I've been told we have one more question, so
yes. So
we're just going to wrap it up. If we can keep it succinct, that would be good.
Thank you, Sir John, for the insightful presentation.
Thank you.
I'm Mohammed bin Zaikour, co-founder of a hospitality startup in Morocco. We have an average age of 27 within the startup, so we're about 150 team member, and the challenge is how to keep them or enhance the loyalty for the upcoming 10 years. Yes. So, the Gen Z and millennials are they're trying to change their mind very quickly. Mm-hmm. So how would be an insightful note to keep them for the upcoming 10 years? Thank you.
That's a tough job to do. I don't have silver bullet answers for that, but I think retaining talent is an everyday job. It's like running a restaurant. You've got to make sure that the dish you serve is the best you serve on that day. Retaining talent is so critical. It is the lifeblood of your institution. How can you build a brand without the people that actually, kind of talk of your brand? So, and most often, we get involved in cost analysis and profitability and margin, because without the people, you have no business. As one of our ex-CEOs of our WPP company said, your biggest asset goes up and down the lift every day. It's the people that make your brand. And I have, as I answered the previous question, how can you make your profession much more than a job? It's about making people happy. It's about serving people. there's a special kind of people there. You know, how do you make your career much more exciting? How do you keep them motivated? You need to do that every day. And you're right. Young people today, the Gen Zs, they have a very special, but you know, if you give them a cause, that, you know, a life cause that they attract. I work for a hotel that believes in sustainability, that believes in sustainability practices, that actually, you know, walks the talk, you know, rather than just making ESG announcement, walks the talk on sustainability. They'll have a reason to work. You know, young people work not just for money, they work for cause. They need to feel good inside. And that's what you need to do. I'm sorry, I took long.
Sunil, thank you so much. Catch them young, engage them, wow them. That's what we need to do. Please give Sunil a big round of applause. Thank you.